live. I am reading out of Lord of the Horizon. It is a Joan Marshall Grant farm memory book about her life as Ra-Ab in ancient Egypt, and we are already coming to the end of this book. We are in part 4, chapter 11, and it is entitled Land of Free People. When, nearly a year later, I broke the royal seal, which closed the papyrus that a messenger from Amenemhet had given into my hand, I wondered whether it would presage another hasty journey north. During the hot weather it is pleasant at the summer palace. If Mary and Ra-Ab and Royden also should feel inclined to make so long a journey to honor Amenhets with their company, then would his heart rejoice. He longs to share with them the tranquility which he enjoys during the autumn of his years. Mary, who was reading over my shoulder, exclaimed, "Of course we must go. It would be good for both of you and Royden to rest for a time. You work too hard." Now that Amenemhet and Necht relieve me of so many responsibility, I'm more in danger of idleness than of overwork. Beckett's children, who were staying with us, ran past the windows on their way to the swimming pool. "Couldn't we take them with us?" suggested Mary. "They would love the sea." "Beckett is taking them there later in the year. We will go alone, with Royden, for it must be a rest for you too. For a time you must forget the concerns of a grandmother." Amenemhet was waiting to greet us at the gateway of the summer palace. I heard Mary catch her breath when she saw him, for though some quality of the evening light, he looked young as the man whose brief happiness we had shared so many years ago. "Bye-bye!" Yet he had attained a serenity which... "See you tomorrow!" Yet he had attained a serenity which... "Bye-bye! Bye-bye!" Yet he had attained a serenity which even then he had not known. Pharaoh was forgotten. Only the man who was our friend remained. "Senusert's son have been staying with me," he said. "Senusert's sons have been staying with me," he said eagerly. "They are coming back soon, after they have been with their mother to visit Beras in the Jackal. I'm building a boat, Ra-Ab, doing the work myself." He laughed and then turned to Mary. "You must help me work in the garden, and so must Royden. You will find me a most eager pupil. Beckett will approve of my gazelles. They could not be more tame even if it was their voice, not mine, which spoke to them." He poured wine for us and then led the way to rooms whose windows were open to the sea. "There is a view to content a man of any age," he said. Then, scooping up some soil from a flowering plant which stood on the window ledge, earth in my hand, my eyes to the horizon, that is how I found my peace. Next morning, though it was soon after dawn when I left the house, I met Amenemhet coming back from the garden. He carried an alabaster jar filled with a blue convolvulus. "Do you remember that they were Nefertari's favorite flower?" he said. "They are descendants of the ones we planted together. When I came back here after 20 years, I found that my orders to tend them had been so scrupulously carried out that there was nothing to show they were not the same flowers which my wife and I had watched climb the trellis. I'm going to put them in her room. I sleep there now, sleep that often brings me to her door. The road to it has become almost as familiar as the paths of my garden. I never feel alone anymore, Ra-Ab, either asleep or awake." Then he took me to see his vineyard. "I shall gather many grapes this year," he said, "even though I was warned that sea winds are not favourable to wines." The fruit was already formed among the clustering leaves. He bent a twist of a bunch where the stem was too crowded. "Wine of my own growing will taste better than any that was closed in the wine jars of Pharaoh. It took courage to plant these vines, Ra-Ab." "Courage?" "Yes, I flinched away from anything which might remind me of the time when I was separate. When you have drunk from 1,000 wine cups, wondering if each was poisoned, it is not easy to plant vines. Now I have grapes of my own pressing, with which to fill the cup I raise to Ra, that he may bless the toast I drink to all my brothers. He smiled. It was another victory for you, Ra-Ab, when I could close with bitumen the seams of the boat I'm building, to find that bitumen had the brave smell of a quest for new horizon. Bitumen? I asked for a moment, puzzled. Yes, bitumen, the warm breath of a mummy who would not die. She was freed long ago. I was freed also, Ra-Ab, by you, who have always been my friend. No, it was by Teten. It was your friendship which made it possible for him to break the link, your affection which was stronger than her hatred. A gazelle jumped over the vineyard wall, paused when he saw me, and then came trotting to his master. Amemenhets stooped down to fondle him. Becket gave him to me, he said. Becket, who gave me peace. I love her as a daughter, Ra-Ab. So we are closer than brothers. Your daughter is my daughter, my son, your son. Was it you or Royden who had the wisdom to send me to Becket? Neither. It was my younger son. He smiled. Our relationships are becoming very complex, for Becket is not only your son, but Royden's also. I'm blessed in my kinsman. I, who used to be so lonely. Did Becket ever tell you how patient she had to be with me? What did she say about me, Ra-Ab? She spoke as though you were one of her children, who must be cherished to heal him of a bitter hurt. I never realized she saw me like that, but now I see it is true. I was surprised at being received without ceremony. You must remember that I had only met the Becket of ceremonial, the wife of the vizier. I was carried straight to my room and found it strange that its appointments were so simple. There were flowers on the window ledge, blue flowers. Becket said, Mother told me that blue is Nefertati's favorite color. No one dared to mention my wife to me since her death. For a moment I was angry for me. Then I realized that Nefertati was a woman who waited for me beyond sleep. A living woman. The beautiful mummy for whom I had long sorrowed was only a dress she had discarded. Becket's children used to come to talk with me. To them I was not Pharaoh. I was only a guest of their mothers, who had been ill and needed comforting. It was when the youngest girl wept for pity because I could not play with her in the garden that I became ashamed of hiding behind my illness. I went out into the sun, and a child taught me to help her weed her private plot. There was earth, rich, clean earth on my hands and under my nails when Becket found me. I remember thinking that since I was a little boy, it was the first time I had ever been dirty. I'm learning to be a gardener, I said to her. Look at all the weeds I have pulled out. She smiled. Soon you will be ready to make things grow. It is not easy to be a gardener. It needs patience, for there's much to learn. I promised to be patient if she would take me as a pupil, and I thought, at last Pharaoh is beginning to learn something. Becket would not let me help her with the animals until they had become accustomed to me. For a while, they would not trust me. Why should they, when I mistrusted myself? The first time one of her leopards rested his chin on my knee and purred when I stroked him, I knew that I had been accepted into a kinship from which I had long been exiled. It was soon after this when Senusert and his wife came to the house of the two winds. They too were part of Becket's family. Since his return from the Oryx, I had honored Senusert, given him trust and admiration. I was proud that we were linked by blood, but it was through Becket that I found the Senusert whom I dearly loved. My grandchildren have never liked me when I was only Pharaoh, but now they come to accept me, as did Becket's children, for one of themselves. The first time they asked me to tell a story to them before they said good night, I knew it was much more important that my reading of the laws, for now, at last, I could read the great law. of true affection. I make a pause here because I fear the battery might get empty, and will read the end of this book later.